When you think of popes, you might imagine holy men leading the Catholic Church with dignity and piety, but history tells a different story. Today we're diving into the darkest chapters of papal history. These aren't just rule breakers, these are 7 men who completely shattered the image of what a pope should be. Buckle up for the wildest ride through Vatican history you've never been taught in school. Pope number 1. Pope Sergius III, the violent usurper. Our journey begins with Pope Sergius III, who seized the papacy through violence and murder in 904. Sergius didn't just want to be pope, he was obsessed with it. After failing to claim the papal throne, he returned to Rome with an army, ordered the strangulation of his predecessor Pope Leo V and the previous Pope Christopher while they were imprisoned. Sergius was the only pope to order the murder of other popes, and he didn't stop there. He nullified all the ordinations of Pope Formosus, creating chaos in the church, and allegedly fathered an illegitimate son who would later become Pope John VII. Sergius rebuilt the Lateran palace that had collapsed during an earthquake, but his legacy remains one of brutality and corruption. He's known as the beginning of what historians call the pornocracy, or rule of the harlots, a dark period when the papacy was controlled by powerful noble women. Pope number 2, Pope John XII, the teenage tyrant. Imagine becoming the leader of the entire church at just 18 years old. That's what happened with Pope John XII, who transformed the Vatican into his personal playground. John was the son of a powerful Roman noble who essentially handed him the papacy like a birthday present. Once in power, this teenage pope turned the papal palace into what contemporary chronicles described as a brothel. He was accused of multiple counts of adultery, incest, and turning the Lateran palace into a den of prostitution. He reportedly drank toast to the devil and invoked pagan gods while gambling. When King Otto I of Germany came to Rome, John initially welcomed him, but then betrayed him. Otto called a synod that condemned John for murder, perjury, sacrilege, and other sins. After briefly losing power, John returned to Rome, mutilated his enemies, cutting off hands, noses, and tongues, and died shortly after at age 27, reportedly while in bed with a married woman. Some accounts claim he died of a stroke. Others say the woman's husband caught them and beat John to death. Either way, it was an appropriately scandalous end for one of history's most debauched popes. Pope number 3, Pope Benedict IX, the pope who sold the papacy. Benedict IX holds a unique record in papal history. He was pope on 3 separate occasions. What's even more shocking is how he left his second term. He sold the papacy for cash. Becoming pope around age 20, possibly even younger, Benedict was described by one church writer as a demon from hell in the disguise of a priest. His behavior was so vile that St. Peter Damian wrote that his life was so vicious, so foul, so execrable that I shudder to think of it. After ruling for 12 years amid wild parties and alleged bisexual orgies, Benedict decided he wanted to marry his cousin. His solution: he sold the papacy to his godfather, who became Pope Gregory VI for 1,500 pounds of gold, equivalent to millions of dollars today. But Benedict wasn't done. He later changed his mind, reclaimed the papacy, lost it again, and claimed it a 3rd time before finally being driven from Rome. Benedict IX is the only man to have served as pope multiple times, and the only one to have sold the position like it was a used chariot on Roman Craigslist. Pope number 4, Pope Stephen VI, the CADAVER Synod. If you think politics is cutthroat today, wait until you hear about Pope Stephen VI, who put his 9 months dead predecessor on trial. In what has to be one of the most macabre events in church history, Stephen ordered the corpse of Pope Formosus to be exhumed, dressed in papal vestments, and propped up on a throne in the Basilica of St. Edward John, Lateran. This cadaver synod of 897 featured Stephen screaming questions at the rotting corpse while a deacon hid behind the throne to answer confessions in a mock voice. The dead pope was found guilty of perjury and illegally serving as bishop, while already a bishop elsewhere. Stephen had the corpse stripped of its sacred vestments, the 3 blessing fingers of its right hand cut off, and all its official acts annulled. The body was initially thrown into a pauper's grave before being dug up again and thrown into the Tiber River. Divine justice seems swift. Within months, Stephen was imprisoned by outraged Romans and strangled in his cell. The macabre trial remains one of the most bizarre episodes in papal history. Pope number 5, Pope Alexander VI, the Borgia Pope. Perhaps the most infamous name on our list, Rodrigo Borgia, Pope Alexander VI, transformed the Vatican into the epicenter of Renaissance corruption. Alexander bought the papacy through extensive bribery in 1492, the same year Columbus sailed to America. Once in power, he appointed family members to key positions and accumulated massive wealth. Despite his vow of celibacy, Alexander fathered at least 7 children, possibly as many as 10, with various mistresses. His notorious children included Cesare and Lucrezia Borgia, who feature prominently in Renaissance history. The Borgia Pope hosted lavish parties, including the infamous Banquet of Chestnuts, a reported orgy in the papal palace where attendants picked up chestnuts scattered on the floor while naked prostitutes crawled among them. Alexander used the papacy to increase his family's power, waging wars and forming strategic alliances. He died suddenly in 1503, some say from malaria, while others suspect poison. His bloated, blackened corpse was said to be a sign of demonic influence, and workers reportedly refused to touch it. Pope Urban VI, the torturer of cardinals. Pope Urban VI began his papacy normally enough, but soon showed signs of what many historians believe was severe mental illness, leading to unparalleled cruelty. After his election in 1378, Urban became increasingly paranoid and violent. When cardinals questioned his sanity, he flew into rages, allegedly proclaiming that he wished to hear their screams. His treatment of cardinals who opposed him was brutal. He had several arrested and tortured while he read his breviary. Some reports claim he had 5 cardinals stuffed into sacks and thrown into the sea or buried alive. Urban's brutality led to the Western Schism, a period where 2 and eventually 3 different men claimed to be the true pope simultaneously, throwing the church into decades of chaos. This split wasn't resolved until the Council of Constance in 1417, nearly 40 years after Urban's reign began. When he died in 1389, there was widespread relief. Urban VI's legacy is one of torture, paranoia, and a divided church that would take generations to heal. Pope number 7, Pope Leo XVI. The lavish patron or final pope might seem tame compared to the others, but Leo XI's financial excesses triggered one of the most significant religious upheavals in history, the Protestant Reformation. Born Giovanni de' Medici of the powerful Florentine banking family, Leo was made a cardinal at age 13 and became pope at 37. Upon his election, he reportedly told his brother, "Since God has given us the papacy, let us enjoy it." And enjoy it he did. Leo spent lavishly on art, architecture, and entertainment, draining the Vatican treasury that his predecessor had filled. He kept a white elephant named Hanno as a pet, along with various exotic animals. His coronation parade alone cost 100,000 ducats, about a third of the papal treasury. To fund his extravagant lifestyle and the rebuilding of St. Peter's Basilica, Leo expanded the sale of indulgences, essentially selling salvation for cash. This practice so outraged a German monk named Martin Luther that he nailed his 95 Theses to a church door in Wittenberg in 1517, sparking the Protestant Reformation. While Leo wasn't as personally scandalous as others on our list, his financial mismanagement and love of luxury changed the course of Christianity forever. These 7 popes show us that power, even supposedly divine power, can corrupt absolutely. From putting corpses on trial to selling the papacy for gold, these men broke every rule of the office they held. The Catholic Church has survived these dark chapters and implemented reforms after many of these scandals. Today's papacy bears little resemblance to the political and sometimes violent institution it once was. What do you think? Were you surprised by any of these papal scandals? Let me know in the comments below which pope you found most shocking. If you enjoyed this historical journey, please hit that like button and subscribe for more videos exploring history's strangest and most fascinating stories.